It's a warm, bright midday on September 8th, 2024, and a Malaysian man named Muhamed Zaki has just arrived at an orchard near the forest behind his house, ready to spend the day doing what he loves most, bird trapping. Ever since his childhood days, he'd been in love with the sport, often slipping into the forest for hours at a time, chasing birds and losing himself in it. That day, too, a little too deep into the chase and a little too worn out to notice, sometime after noon, Zaki wandered into a stretch of forest he wasn't supposed to. And before he'd realized it, he heard a strange, low, heavy growl, followed by the sight of something even stranger. When he looked, it was a creature staring into his soul, and he couldn't make sense of anything whatsoever. Weirdly long, hooked claws built for destruction, a part dog, part human-looking body, covered in jet black, almost glossy black hair, and a slouched, ugly posture. This thing, with a bite force so nasty it could rip into skulls and snap bones like dry sticks, charged at Zaki head-on, chest out like a fighter stepping into a brawl. Next thing Zaki knew, it was on him, ripping open his scalp, tearing into his face, legs, and everything it could reach. A few hours later, people found Zaki alive, but in a horrifying state, and rushed him to the hospital. However, after 6 days of intense treatment and desperate attempts to save him, Zaki tragically succumbed to his injuries. It was later revealed by experts that the attack came from a beast even tigers were known to fail to, let alone vulnerable, ordinary humans. Meet the tiger's most underrated killer, the sunbear. Under Dutch colonial rule in what is now Indonesia, tigers were basically treated like pests. They were showing up around villages, taking livestock, and even attacking people living close to the forest boundaries. So, to deal with this, the government kept an active bounty system, where anyone who killed the tiger and brought its head to the authorities would be rewarded. One day, a man from a town in the north went to the local officer in charge of announcing these rewards, and claimed he had heard what sounded like two tigers fighting nearby the previous night, with growls and screams so loud, he was sure one of them had killed the other. The man asked if he would still receive a reward if he managed to bring back one, and possibly both of them, and after the officer confirmed he would, the man set off into the forest to look for the fighting cats. We'll get to what happened next in a bit. Though, spoiler alert, it wasn't all what he was expecting, nor was it anything less than a violent, blood-soaked nightmare. However, before that made sense, we need to go back to sunbears and give them the introduction they deserve. Helarctos malayanus, also known as the sunbear, is the smallest of all bear species found on the planet, native to dense tropical forests of Southeast Asia, stretching from northeastern India and southern Bangladesh through Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam, all the way down to Malaysia and Indonesia. Males of this species only reach a height slightly larger than a full-grown Rottweiler, standing at around 70 centimeters and weighing anywhere between 25 and 65 kilograms, with females being up to 20% smaller and even lighter. However, for what they lack in size, they make up for in literally everything else. These sickle-shaped claws are the longest of any bear relative to its size, reaching up to 10 centimeters. They're built to rip through giant hardwood bark like nothing but soggy cardboard. This starving female, though, isn't cracking the tree open to eat the plant itself, but whatever she's caught the scent of inside it. It's a nice little score, even if it barely takes the edge off her hunger. But before she starts feeling let down, her insanely sharp nose, several thousand times stronger than the average human's, catches another scent drifting through the forest, and this time, it's her favorite kind of food. Way up high on these towering trees sits a beehive, which means that this isn't just a stash of honey, it's a whole lot of bees, too. Problem is, for pretty much any other bear, a tree this tall would be a hard pass. But for these weirdly long, curved limbs of sunbears, paired with their massive claws and ridiculously dense forearm muscles, they are tailor-made for climbing almost like apes and swimming just as well. The female scales the tree with such ease that she makes the whole thing look like a cakewalk. Interestingly, though, with such shape and length of limbs, the chest of a sunbear comes out pretty flat. giving it this oddly upright, almost awkward posture. When it walks on all fours, it gives off a bit of a dog-like vibe. Their stocky build and short muzzles don't really help the illusion either. And the resemblance can get so uncanny that in some regions they're actually called dog bears, even though it's not very mainstream nomenclature. That being said, it's still not even the weirdest thing about how they look. This female sun bear named Angela, living in a Chinese zoo back in 2023, ended up becoming a social media sensation after a clip of her standing upright on two legs and casually waving at visitors went viral. Now, sun bears do stand on their hind legs pretty often when they're trying to get a better look at distant prey or sniff out potential danger. And being surprisingly intelligent animals, they can even mimic human behavior to some extent, which is exactly what Angela seemed to be doing here, waving right back at people who were already waving at her. But the way she pulled it off at people saying she looked like a guy in a bear suit instead of the bear itself. Things got so out of hand online, people started accusing the zoo of putting a fake bear, pointing at her straight back, hunched shoulders, and that loose, wrinkled fur around her lower body. In reality, that is just how sun bears are built. But since not many people had heard of the species before, the confusion snowballed fast and got so out of hand that the zoo eventually had to step in and issue an official clarification. During the whole controversy, roughly 20,000 people were reportedly showing up every day just to catch a glimpse of Angela. Apart from gulping down loads of honey and bees, along with all kinds of bugs, beetles, worms, and entire mounds of ants and termites, sun bears use their absurdly long tongues to scrape deep inside hollow fallen logs, or their ripping canines, with a bite force stronger than that of an adult jaguar, to crack open hard fruits like coconuts and durians, and even smash through turtle shells. And when you add to that an already freakish arsenal of nasty claws and powerful limbs, you get the smallest bear in the world that is known to kill the biggest of all cats, the tiger. Now, tigers, along with leopards and sometimes giant pythons, do prey on sun bears, especially sleeping adults or cubs. But indigenous people had time and time again reported brutal clapbacks from sun bears against those apex predators, even though no confirmed killing had ever officially been recorded. That was until the mid-1800s. In 1868, a book by American naturalist Albert S. Bickmore called Travels in the East Indian Archipelago was published, where he wrote about the strange and extraordinary events he had come across during his travels through the East Indies a few years earlier. One of those accounts mentioned a villager who thought he was hearing two tigers fighting deep in the forest, so he rushed toward the noise, hoping to cash in on the bounty. But when he finally reached the spot, he realized that there had definitely been a fight, just not between two tigers. Instead, it had been a full-grown tiger locked in combat with the smallest bear in the world. Now, on paper, the odds should have definitely been stacked against the sun bear. But somehow, the fight ended in a dead-even stalemate because both animals had killed each other. According to the people who had witnessed the aftermath firsthand, the tiger and bear were still locked in an embrace long after death, both having bled out from the deep slash and the puncture wounds. The tiger's teeth were still buried in the bear's neck, while the bear's claws remained dug deep into the tiger's body. These ferocious beasts can show that same level of aggression toward humans, too, especially when their territory gets pushed into, or their cubs end up cornered. Hunters and locals living around their habitats also heavily target these elusive predators, trading them for exotic pet displays or harvesting them for their meat and bile, which is still used in traditional Chinese medicine. According to estimates, sun bear populations have already dropped by nearly 35% compared to the 1990s, making them vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. And sadly, it might not stop there. If stronger protections aren't put in place over the next 30 years, experts suspect their numbers could crash by as much as 80% due to rising human expansion into their habitats, and of course, the constant threat of poaching. It's us everywhere. One more reason these numbers are tanking could be the fact that sun bear cubs come into the world unbelievably fragile and vulnerable to predation. After around 100 days of gestation, following mating that can happen at almost any time of the year, a sun bear cub is born blind and deaf and stays that way for nearly 50 days. During that time, their mother has to fiercely protect them from predators on the ground and up in the trees, where, sadly, she isn't always successful. But that's not even the worst part. These cubs can't even poop by themselves. The mother has to aggressively lick their butthole to stimulate the muscles until the little guy finally drops the payload. But, I guess they start making their own babies at around 2 years of age and eventually end up doing the exact same thing for them, so life really is a circle. Or in this case, a disgusting, sticky little circle. Leave a comment or help a bear poop. Make that make sense to me. I won't. I don't have to justify myself to anyone, let alone you. All right. Love you.